At the height of his earthly ministry, Jesus pulled his guys aside and he asked them a particular question. He had gone up into a real Gentile area where they would worship the god Pan. You know, the guy who was half goat, half man, blew a flute, come out and scream and scare everybody for a year. Very similar to kind of what's happening now with pandemics and pandemonium and all the other stuff. Anyway, he goes up there and he's with his guys and he pulls them aside and he asks them a question. He says, "Hey dudes, who do people say that I am?" Now that was a general question. It wasn't particularly cutting into their personal life or asking them anything specific about them. It was, who do people say that I am? And well, they responded with things like, some people say you're Elijah, the prophet. Some people say you're actually John the Baptist that has come back from the dead, and Jeremiah. And they may even have had a bit of a laugh about that. And then all of a sudden he drops the bomb and he says, "But who do you say that I am?" Oh, now that's different. That's personal. Who do you say that I am? In fact, this might be the most important personal question in the world. A.W. Tozer said, "What comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us." If you were asked that question, who do you think I am, or who do you think Jesus is? What would be your answer? Might you say, "Well, he is a great teacher," or maybe he's the prime example of what love is? You might even say he's the most perfect human being that ever lived. He was enlightened. Some people say that. Or would you say, perfect, yes, perfect Son of God? Following a bit of a pregnant silence, Peter pipes up and he says, "You are the Christ," which means the anointed one or Messiah. "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus commends him and says, "You know what, Peter? Nobody revealed that to you, no man. In fact, it was my Father in heaven that revealed it to you. And upon this rock, upon that rock of revelation, that was the revelatory foundational stone, that Jesus is the living Son of God, the Christ. That upon that rock I will build my church." And right in front of the hordes of hell, where Pan was worshipped and the underworld gate was right there, he says, "And the gates of hell will not prevail against the church I build," upon that revelation. Here's another important consideration. C.S. Lewis wrote about this, and he said, it is a very important question. Who do you say that I am? Or it's very important what you think about God. But there's something that's even more important, and that is, what does God think about you? He said this, and I'll quote, he says, "Indeed, how we think of him is of no importance, except insofar as it's related to how he thinks of us. It is written that we shall all stand before him, shall appear and be inspected. The promise of glory is the promise, almost incredible and only possible by the work of Christ, that some of us, that any of us who really chooses, shall actually survive that examination, shall find approval, shall please God." To please God, to be a real ingredient in the divine happiness, to be loved by God, not merely pitied, but delighted in, as an artist delights in his work or a father in his son. It seems impossible, a weight or burden of glory which our thoughts can hardly sustain. But so it is. Unquote. That was C.S. Lewis from the book The Weight of Glory, 1941. So in other words, what you think of God is important, but not as important of what he thinks of you, and especially on that final day. So in fact, the two do go together. But one thing you can know who Christ is, You can know all about him. You can even know he is the Son of the Most High, which is what the demons said to him, and yet not bow your knee, not submit, not be wholly his, not respond to him in loving gratitude and humble service as a friend. So you can know all about him, and you might be filled with dread on that day you see him face to face. So it doesn't matter what others say. Today the question is, who do you say that I am?